Hello everyone, this is Raz and welcome back to the Anime Dungeon. So today's episode is going to be a bit shorter because this was kind of meant to be the second part of the Cyborg video and I didn't record it in time to have it with the first part, so I'm recording it now. And as you can probably see, it's 6 in the morning and I haven't gone to bed yet. Also, before you ask, I don't normally use Opera. I'm using it because it's difficult to keep all my Google accounts logged in. I have too damn many Google accounts, so I'm just having the one that I use for YouTube on here. So anyway, without further ado, this is the Cyborg character that I've created. I've named him Craig, another really original name, I know, but I just wanted a quick name. So he's a cyborg, like I said. He's a warrior. His disadvantages is that he's guilty about something that he's done. He's a martyr, so he's always out in front, ready to take blows for his nakama to a fault almost, because, you know, he's the warrior and I'm building him as a defensive warrior, so he wants to be the guy out in front taking hits so his friends don't. And similarly, he's aggressive because he's always going to be ready to fight, and when he is fighting, he's always going to be protecting his allies, is kind of the idea. So I gave him the career bounty hunter mostly because I didn't really care what career he had, and I figured I might as well take one that I don't have to feel horrible if I don't actually put too many feats into it. As for his attributes, we get the +2 to strength, constitution, and then -2 to charisma. I bumped charisma up to 10, so he's not completely socially inept. And I took full advantage of the constitution, bringing that up to 18, since he's, again, the defensive warrior. Now, one variation I could have done is I could have taken more dex, because then he'd be good at dodging, or more int even in this system, so he could be good at dodging. But I envision him using a shield and plate mail armor later, so I'm gonna not focus on dex too much. Even in full plate, you can get a +1 from your dex, but it's just more than I want to keep track of, so I'm just gonna focus on constitution with a secondary of his strength, so you can deal more damage. As for primary skills, I went with Weapon Strike. I guess you could probably build a character without taking something like that as a favored, but I would always have my weapon as a favored. So if I'm a brawler, I have my unarmed. If I'm a ranger, having my range shot marksman, not ranger, sorry. And then I chose defense. Since he's a tank, he's going to be defensive. So I took that. And you might notice that it's a little higher than it's supposed to be. I'll touch on that in a little bit. I took initiative so he can act first, so he can get in front of his party members before they have a chance to act, is the idea. And then fortitude save, because he's constitution based, so it kind of makes sense, but also because, like I was talking about in my hockey video, if you do not specialize in one of these saves, you will not have any hockey powers even at level 20. So I went with Fortitude because it makes sense for the character and because it allows him to get the armament hockey. So he can either bolster his attack power or his defense with that, both simultaneously actually. Similarly to all the constitution I gave him, he's got 13 health. I'll explain that in a little bit as well. And 2 damage reduction. Again, I think I had to explain that too. So for the warrior and bounty hunter, wow, I can't believe I forgot that. The secondary skills are balance, bluff, climb, gather information, hide, intimidate, jump, listen, ride, search, sense motive, spot, and trapping. There's a lot of things that stack. That's why there's so few skills in here. I don't mind that for this character, so that's actually pretty good. So with these, a lot of this is kind of role-playing sort of stuff. since he's a bounty hunter, I gave him abilities that would help him with bounty hunting. So spotting targets, searching for stuff, listening, intimidating, gathering information, and sensing motive. So the idea is that he can talk to people to figure stuff out, like where his bounty is. He can intimidate people, so maybe even without fighting them necessarily, or he can beat them a lot and then intimidate them, so he doesn't actually have to like fully knock them unconscious and take the penalties involved with non-lethal damage. And yeah, so that's kind of the idea with that. Let's jump to the next tab, which is equipment. So his weapon is a Morning Star. I like maces on my tanks, what can I say? And what's kind of weird here is there's a heavy mace, which does the same amount of damage, but it costs like 3 times as much. The difference would be that this does piercing damage, and that would do bludgeoning, so I guess that's worth considering, but I decided to save some money and just get the Morning Star. He also has a hand cannon as a cyborg attachment. It fires a cannonball, so I think that would be bludgeoning, because it's not a bullet, so it's like a cannonball. That doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's nice to have the option at least. He doesn't have any armor because I didn't have enough for any of it, because chest is so expensive and it just feels weird taking plate mail gloves to exploit. So he bought a heavy shield, which I entered in the hand armor, which on my character sheet isn't intended, but I didn't actually leave anything to account for having a shield, so I'm probably going to come back and revise this. I've never really liked this page of the character sheet, so I definitely want to look at revising this in the future. So for right now, I'm going to be combining the glove and shield. So if I got plate mail gloves, those give another armor. So I'd probably just say this gives 4 defense, just for simplicity's sake. I skipped feats on purpose just to talk about the one item he's going to have is his bounty hunter's kit, which basically gives you some wanted posters for the most common bounties that people are hunting after. And it also gives you a license to bounty hunt, which I guess is noteworthy because I didn't understand this entirely, but I guess bounty hunting, you have to be legally allowed to bounty hunt, and just not anyone can do it, apparently. I'm not sure how true that is, but that's what the books seem to suggest, so I guess that would be up to your DM how that works. And as for feats, we took some interesting ones here. So from the warrior, we got Armored Stance, which will grant us a +2 to defense while using a shield, and a -4 to attacks. This is a stance, so I have to activate it on my first turn in order to actually use it, and then I had to turn it off whenever I'm done using it. I took 2 ranks of Blooded, which means I gain 4 HP per level, which is kind of insane. So we already had a lot of HP to start with. If I'm looking at this formula correct, it's 5 plus my constitution times my level. So I already would have had 9 HP at level 1, but with this it bumps it up to 13. And each level, I'm going to gain another 13 hit points. So it's like at level 2, I'm going to have 26. So my health is going to go up really high by the level 20. So I'm going to basically not only have the defense, but he's going to be a meat shield at that point. So that's definitely going to help him be a crazy martyr standing in front of everyone taking hits. From the bounty hunter, I took the fame feat, which means that people recognize you, which is kind of more roleplay flavor. So your DM would have to take that in consideration. Do you have people that don't like you and recognize you and they want to kill you or something? Do you have people that you're hunting that recognize you and don't want to be anywhere near you? Are you some kind of good bounty hunter? So people recognize you and are like happy to see you or something like that. So that's kind of something you'd have to talk with your DM about, and they'd have to figure out how it's going to work into the campaign. It also gives a +3 on intimidation checks, so that's very helpful as well. I don't think I actually wrote that down on my character sheet, which is not great. That would go in the bonus columns, because that's just blank. As you can see, there's no formula in here, so you can just enter whatever buffs you might have in there, and then the character sheet will update accordingly. So yeah, that's really nice. That's a good score for intimidation. And I marked implants as feats. That might not be the intended thing, but again, I didn't make the sheet with them in mind, so I'm just going to treat them as feats. I'd probably continue treating them as feats. The only thing I might do instead would be making like an entirely separate sheet for cyborgs, but that seems kind of silly, so I think I'd probably just continue using them as feats. So the hand cannon, like I showed you, does 1d6 plus my dexterity, which is a 0 right now. But as a full round action, I can make a range attack up to 100 feet away, and it deals 1d6 and another 1d6 every 5 levels. Each time I shoot uses half a bottle of fuel. So that kind of sucks, it's a full round action. You can't move and shoot at the same time. You can take a 5-foot step. That's like built into the system. Pathfinder has the same kind of thing, and D&D probably does too. I'm not entirely sure, but you can take a 5-foot step and shoot, or you can shoot and take a 5-foot step, but you can't move your full distance and shoot in the same turn. The hand cannon itself is nice, but what's better about it is that it's going to lead to better things. Like there's a flamethrower, there's a zap cannon, there's beams, like there's a ton of high damage dealing abilities attached to the hand cannon, so it's more of a prerequisite than anything. And then I also took the Mean Machine feat as my last feat. Armored Stance being 1, Blooded being 2, 3, Fame being 4, Mean Machine being 5. And Mean Machine lets you take an extra implant, basically. It didn't say you can take it more than once, or maybe it did. I'm not entirely sure. You'd have to look in the rulebook yourself, but basically, I just took it to take a second implant. For that, I took Steel Skin. Kind of boring, but it's a nice passive implant that doesn't cost any fuel and it just gives me 1 extra damage reduction. Now, it doesn't stack with Iron Skin, so I probably just wouldn't even take Iron Skin at this point. So there's a prestige class that I'm going for with this character called Guardian. That's like a really defensive heavy armor user. And one of their prerequisites, wow, is the Iron Skin feat. Now, I'd be fine taking that for the sole purpose of unlocking the class, but if I were in charge of the game, or if I were to argue about this, I would definitely say that Steel Skin should just be equivalent. So, because it kind of is mean to make your cyborg take 2 feats, essentially, an implant and a feat, to unlock the class. I guess you could also argue that you just shouldn't take this implant, you should just take the feat. But I definitely think this should be equivalent. I would definitely say that you didn't need Iron Skin, you could just use Steel Skin, because, come on. It's just stupid. Another implant I definitely would want to get very soon would be 1 or 2 extra bottles of fuel, but I didn't take that right now because then I wouldn't have anything that uses fuel yet, so that would be kind of boring for a while. I'd just be a warrior, essentially. So that would definitely probably be the next implant I take, is getting a 4th bottle of fuel, which is kind of boring. I don't get a new attack or anything, but I definitely want more fuel. 3 bottles isn't enough. Like if you get the super beam weapon or whatever it's called, that takes 3 bottles of fuel just to shoot it, so you definitely want to take more bottles if you want to use the higher damage abilities. So with that, I think that pretty much covers everything on this character. He's tanky. He can stand in front, take a lot of damage, take a lot of punishment, and he likes doing so according to his disadvantages. So if you like this video, let me know. I'm going to be making more about the other races, the other classes, prestige classes eventually, and then there's also still some like core concepts I need to cover. There's tons and tons of videos I can still make about this. It's all just a matter of time, guys. So until next time, this is Raz, and I'll see you again very soon.